Hey everyone, can you hear me? Oh, it seems like, yes, it seems like we should be live now. Okay, sorry for the few minutes, and I need to mute myself there. Just a second. There we go. Yeah, so sorry for the short delay. Actually, I was just rechecking that everything worked fine, adding everyone for the fight night, and also just before I started, the whole OBS system basically froze, which uh, simply means that since I set up everything a bit earlier today, uh, pretty much the software was pretty much waiting for me to launch the stream, probably for a bit too long. It's the summer. It was probably, I don't know how the magic works with these softwares. They were just probably a bit tired. Ended up frozen, so I had to restart it. But now everything seems to be working just fine. Can you guys confirm to me in the chat if everything is working fine, if you can hear me well? And at the same time, I'm just basically going to welcome every single one of you in there. I see Mr. Undercover Anonymous, and that is already a super cool nickname as the first name to see in there. So whoever you are, because you clearly don't want us to know, I'm quite happy to see you here. We have Constantine, Seth the Conjurer. We have quite a few people there. I see as well that some people are already starting to talk in different languages, and I love that. I actually initially planned to welcome you in a few different languages today, but I realized I don't know that many. So, hola, ¿qué tal? Ciao a tutti. Bonjour à tous. Wie geht's, meine Freunden? There's not that many other languages I can cover, but that's already all I can do. So I hope everyone is doing fine. And yeah, as I usually do, I will wait just a few minutes to make sure everyone that would like to join has the time to catch up, and then we'll be able to start properly. Today we have a short section regarding streams and what we want to do with them, etc., before we then go on with the actual fight night. And yeah, the first segment shouldn't last too long, but it depends, as always, on you guys. And if you have lots of questions, lots of comments, we might spend a bit more time on this. And that's why also I stated on Discord that for today, I could only guarantee 125 spots in the fight night. That doesn't mean that only 125 players will fight. We will probably be able to squeeze in a few more. It mostly depends on how fast things are going. So if everything goes fast, we might end up having quite a few more players squeezing in. I made sure to leave the questionnaire open for long enough so that we have quite a few more players if we need, if we have the time to add some more in there. Okay, there's a question from Yann Vaillancourt. Sounds pretty French to me. I could answer to you in French, but in any case, you say you've never done the fight night and you want to know how to join. We are sharing on the day of the stream, sometimes the day before. With the next streams, I will try to have it ready the day before. We are sharing a form on which you can register yourself for the fight night. And then for how the fight night actually happens, I mean, either you've already seen some of those streams and you know how it works. If you didn't, you will probably see just in some minutes how it's going to be. But it's actually quite interesting if you've never done the fight night, because we have some ideas on how we could potentially make it a bit more interesting for all players. So let's see how it goes. And you're thanking me both in French and German. Yeah, I mean, that's fine by me. My French is obviously a lot better than my German, obviously. How about to start the fights? Well, first of all, we need to go through those stream news. I will start now. I'm not going to be I will not gonna be spending too much time waiting there, and yeah, then we'll be going on. So what about the streams? Stream news. The reason why I want to bring that up is because there were some questions, some comments, some feedback on what could potentially be changed, what could potentially be improved, what should be staying the way it is, etc. But also because we ran a survey a few weeks back, and we also wanted to reflect on how this survey has been feeding our thought process a bit regarding streams. So let's get right into it pretty much. Regarding streams, first of all, it's important to look at what we are aiming for. We have a motto within the Godspeed Games team in general, is that we never do something only solely because of tradition. Don't get me wrong, tradition is super important in the gaming industry, and we are not going to be, deciding from one day to another that you don't have streams anymore or anything like this, or no rewards or whatever. That would make no sense. But we always want to make sure that we do things because we know that they are helping us achieving goals for the game and for the community, and not just because it's always been done this way. That's always important for us. The second aspect that we're looking at is that we want those streams to be inclusive and challenging for all players. That means for newcomers, because we plan to have more and more new players joining the game, but also for the elite mastership players that obviously enjoy the challenge there, and we want to make sure they have a good fight. We also want to make sure that the streams can be shorter and more interesting. The main reason for this is that it reflects in the discussions we've had last week during this super long stream, but also in the survey and in pretty much all the feedback we got from players, that when the streams start to be more than 2 hours long, everyone starts to lose a bit of interest, and people usually tend to only watch the moment that they are going to be fighting, but not the rest. And that's not necessarily the best, neither for us or for you or for anyone. Also, we want to make them, as I said, slightly more interesting. That's obviously debatable whether or not they're interesting. It's just how we consider them to be interesting or not, but we'll do our best there. I'm seeing that the chat is not updating. Yeah, now that should be working. Perfect. So we'll try to make them more interesting. We want to reward the effort and the engagement. The main reason why I'm bringing this up is that right now, technically, someone does not need to even watch the stream at all to get the best rewards. You even potentially are rewarded just for copy-pasting your player tag rather than really putting the effort. And the problem is the vast majority of you guys are putting the effort. Not only you, the ones that are watching the stream right now, but most of the people that are part of this community and are engaging in the fight night, you are putting the effort and trying your best to win and just have a good challenge. But by the way it's designed right now, someone that has just a super strong army, or someone that has a super weak army and knows that they're not quite there yet to the point where they could win, then it's pretty much in their interest to not care and just put their code and be done with it. And that's not necessarily what we would like to reward the most. Also, and that's the most important part, the one that I want to explain the most today, is that we want the streams to work with the game in terms of the strategy we are putting into the game. What I mean by this is that at the moment they're a bit uncorrelated. A good example of this would be the rewards that were given out. I know that they evolved over time. There's a lot of things that have been tried on, but there's a big difference between when this game got released and now in terms of the size of the community, but also the progression of the players, which means that the vast majority of the players that were joining the Fight Nights 2 years ago pretty much as soon as they would get the rewards, those rewards would be spent because they were super fast into the progression of the game. They needed to progress. There was a lot of content for them to go in and to just perform. At the moment, the rewards were given out. There's a lot of players that will pile up on those for month and month, but also the group of players that is getting them now is more stable than it used to be, because the community being bigger, when you would have 200 players in a fight night, but you had a way bigger community, by definition, you would have a slightly more rotation than you currently have. So that's something that we need to factor in, because if we want to do stuff that would reward players more in the game, we also need to factor that in. Otherwise, what might happen is that players would feel like it's more rewarding to participate in the fight night, not even necessarily participate in the stream, but just putting their name in the form, as I mentioned earlier, rather than doing some of the stuffs in games that could get them good rewards. And that's where it can be a bit dangerous for the game on the longer run if we don't factor that in. So with that being said, it's a bit abstract as a definition of our goals, but that's just so that you have an idea of where we're coming from with this. Now, talking about what we would like to do really, one thing that we want to focus on is first the duration and the frequency. For the frequency, and that's the part that I know you guys won't necessarily be too happy with, but the data shows us that the streams are performing better every 2 weeks, every other week, simply because you have the in-game news that are more developed every other week. But also, on our side, it is a bit more sustainable. What I mean by sustainable, it's just that we can more easily make sure that we take enough time to have a long stream and have as many players to fight, etc., and guarantee the stream will happen if we have it every 2 weeks, then every week. To be clear, the idea of moving every 2 weeks is not something set in stone. What we would like to do is to have this run, and we'll see if that makes sense or not on the longer run. If we see that after some time we realize that, hey, no, people were more active and more engaged when it was 1 week, every week, we can go back to that. None of those elements that we're sharing right now are set in stone and will block everything. It's rather something that we want to get into also because of the summer period and see how it performs. Again, your feedback on one end and the data we collect from YouTube will be guiding us to decide what the frequency would be. The reason why I'm also saying this is because the average viewing time for the streams is approximately 10 minutes. I don't know if that number is making sense to you, but what it means is when we have a 2.5 hour stream, we have a certain number of views. The average duration of each of those views is about 10 minutes. For a 2.5 hour stream, it's really not that much. And don't get me wrong, a lot of players are watching way longer segment than this. But the reason why it goes this way is that when you're watching the stream live, and if you drop at one point because you have something else to do and you come back later on, those will be two different views for the live. And if those brackets are like 10 minutes each, it's gonna be like this. So in one way, we could feel like, oh, that's okay. It's because of the way the views are counted. In total, people are staying for longer than that. And it's potentially true. It's pretty hard for us to fully verify with the data we have. But if that's true, on the other end, that would mean the number of unique views we have is actually way lower than we expect. So either we have people that are not necessarily watching for too long, or we have a lot less people than we would think. So that's definitely something that we need to address, and that's why we're looking at the duration of those streams. When we look at the survey that we shared with you guys, it's pretty clear that the very vast majority of you want the stream to be between 30 to 2 hours. We are not going to be able to have a 30 minutes long stream. It's completely impossible, and it's not even something we would like to do. But we'll try to keep it within the 2 hours format as much as we can. It's not going to be sharp, obviously, but that's what we would like to go with. Now, and of course, I will take on your comments right after, guys. Don't worry, as well as if you have any questions on this. What we would like to do on the structure of the stream itself is that we teased this idea last week, and it seems to make a lot of sense. That's also something we teased a bit in the form for the fight night today. We would like to have 3 tiers for the fight night, meaning that every stream there would be one fight night that will be for beginners or newcomers, people that are not yet too developed in the game. Then it will be followed by a fight night for regular players and one for the hardcore players. What we would be doing is that the rewarding would be progressing a lot more. This means that if you're beating the hardcore mode, you would probably get more rewards, higher gem total than what you were getting right now. But at the same time, the way the the scaling of the gems would be encouraging you to take on the next challenge. So for example, beating the easy army will give you some gems, obviously, but you would get more gems by losing against the regular army. Winning against the regular army will get you more gems, obviously, but losing against the hardcore one will get you more gems, so that you always have a push to go for the next challenge. So the rewards will be progressing across the board, and it's also to reflect what happens in the game, because when you play the game, obviously receiving 300 gems when you're a super beginner has a way bigger impact in terms of what you can do and your progression than when you receive 300 gems and you've been playing for 2 years. So we want to make sure that this is reflected. Also because it impacts the game itself. That's the last bottom sentence there, that the less rewards we give in the stream, the more rewards we can give in game. What I mean by this is that right now we are working, and that's the announcement that goes with the stream, we're working on getting more ad placements in the game. That's something we already mentioned a few times. We want to have this pretty soon already. So it's like, this summer. And that will allow players to get more gems within the game, which is good, because a lot of players have no idea about the streams. A lot of players, especially newcomers, they don't necessarily feel like they can directly interact with this. So allowing people to get more from the game is definitely something we want to do, because a bigger group of players will benefit from it. But obviously that means we have to be a bit more cautious with the rewards we give from the streams. The part that I want to also mention here is that, and that's because I told you from the get-go that I want to be really transparent with you. When a player is watching an ad, the player is getting some gems, the ad provider is happy because it displays his product, and we as a company get a bit of revenues from it. So you might be against the ad system, that's perfectly understandable, but at least it's a system where all the parts are potentially winning if they want to go in this direction. On the other end, if you just give rewards in the streams to the point where it's more valuable to copy-paste your player tag in the form and go with the stream, not even caring if you're going to win or lose, because it's giving you way more than what you would get from the game, that's potentially where we get into a situation where for the game economy, it becomes an issue. And it becomes an issue because, again, there used to be a lot more rotation between the players that were participating in the stream. And that's what's going to happen here. The top rewards will be higher than before. So you will not be able to get only 300 gems. I don't have yet the final numbers, but maybe it will be 500 or maybe 600. But instead of having the guarantee that you will do that every week, you will do it every 2 weeks. And if you've already passed in the last stream, and if there's way too many demands in the category you're participating in, you might not have the priority. The priority will be to the people that were not in the last time, which doesn't mean you won't be participating every 2 weeks, because for most categories, we will probably have the time, but it depends on how many people will interfere. The idea as well there is, if we want to get more and more new players to join, you can imagine that there's a point where not everyone can be participating, and we have to factor that in from the get-go. On the other end, as I said, there will be more rewards available in the game via the ad system, but also in general, a lot of the features that we want to implement in the game are aimed at giving you pretty much reasons to use up your gems, use your gold, because that's how the game is intended to work and how it worked for the longest time. It's only lately that it became lower. Now, if I will take some of the comments that I see here in the chat, starting from the bottom, but I'll go back to some of you guys. I see PyroBebop saying, yeah, if it isn't 50 gems, I don't even watch the ads. To me, that's precisely illustrating what I meant, that at this point, it's more rewarding to just copy-paste your player tag in the Fight Night form than to watch an ad. And it's okay for you to decide not to watch ad. There was also a question, I think it's from Greenfoot, asking if we want to have an option to not get ads. Yes, we're working on that as well. I don't have yet the details on how it will be implemented, because there's a few different concepts, but there would be an option to not have ads, because that's something we're interested in for the players that are willing to go for that and pay a small extra and get those rewards, but not bother with the ads. We are perfectly fine with that. But that's what I meant, PyroBebop, that at this point right now, the value of watching an ad is perceived as super low, because the value of just participating in the stream became not only very big, but also it became pretty much something that a core group of players is expecting to get no matter what. For example, last week, I had some players that came to me and were like, I didn't manage to subscribe on time, because by the time they were subscribing, the stream already started. And they were pretty much coming at me like, hey, guys, I need my gems. And that's where it starts to be a bit weird, because technically we do those streams to reward as many players as we can, but it's not supposed to be a stream where every single one of the people that I've been used to is getting a set amount of gems every week. Otherwise, what happens is that we are devaluating the gems in the game, and there's less reasons to purchase in the game. And ultimately, less reasons to either watch an ad or buy some gems in the game means that it's bad for the game itself, because that gives us less bandwidth to actually implement the features that you want, etc. And it's important to note that it was not always the case. And that's why I said we need the streams to be in line with the strategy of the game, is that when those streams were started, there was a lot more gems being spent in the game, because as I said before, the players or the core players were at a point of the game where they still need to spend a lot to progress fast. But now we are in the part of the game where a lot of players don't necessarily need to to spend that much. And so they're piling up on tons of rewards, which prevents us from doing a lot of stuff, because if we release a brand new feature right now, we have so many players that are piling up on dozens of thousands of gems that they collected from streams and didn't use, that this new feature will not bring us any revenue. People will just use the gems they piled up, and that pushes us into having to rethink what we can do. So it's something I want to be transparent about, is if you want to get more rewards in the game, if you want to have more features in the game, it's important that we keep the streams under control. And again, you're still going to get good rewards from the gems, actually even more in the stream than you used to, but not necessarily guaranteed to happen every week, etc. That's the part that we want to make sure is happening, that there's the potential for rotation for the players that would like to join. So yeah, just looking back a bit more at some of the comments, Seth the Conjurer is saying, yeah, the rewards don't have to be great, but they have to be decent. We fully agree. There are a lot of stuffs we can do to make the ads better, and that's one of the things we're working on as well. Mr. Undercover Anonymous tells us to put some exclusive portrait as reward in the stream. We could. That's actually something that we could work on, adding more cosmetics, but also other stuffs, like not only gems. We would love to do that. I'm not sure we could put a lot of exclusive portraits, because the problem with exclusive portraits is that obviously they cost quite some money to generate, and if we don't make any single revenue out of them, we can get some, but not that many. And so we would be able to get you some cosmetics, but we would not be able to get you new cosmetics every 2 weeks, for example, which means a lot of players would then not be interested in participating in the next one because they already had it. So yeah, that's something to think about. Greenfoot, you're mentioning Power Stones. I mean, technically, why not? That could also be a good idea, because Power Stones could be a way to boost the season, etc. The only thing is, with Power Stones or even Eternite, we just have to be cautious about not impacting the rest of the game. But in general, putting different rewards, we are definitely in for that. So there was a question from Greenfoot to know if we would have like regular easy stream in 1 week and then battle news and hardcore stream the second week. No, because as I said earlier, the idea would be to probably, at least for the time being, go with one stream every 2 weeks. So the stream would have the 3 categories, but in all honesty, especially at the beginning, the fight night for the beginners will probably be very short. If I look at the survey we ran today, it's about not even 10% of the participants that would go in that category, and the other ones would be a bit bigger. What would probably be happening is that, as I said, to make sure that we have as many participants as possible, every week we would be prioritizing the people that were not able to participate in the previous edition, and then of course take from the first one that got in. We would, on the other end, probably have a global limitation as we did today, which doesn't mean we cannot exceed it if we have the time, but the idea is to keep it roughly around 2 hours. So if we see that it's going to be way longer, we would probably then do it otherwise. Now guys, I will keep looking into some of the comments in there, and if there are some questions that I didn't answer, you can repoke it in there. But for now, we'll start the stream so that we can actually keep it within the 2 hours time frame, or as close as we can. Not start the stream, sorry, start the fight night. So just a second here as I'm finalizing, mostly making sure that we can start right away, and then we'll be able to start. I also want to tell you that today is actually a bit better for us on the weather, so I shouldn't be as tired as I was last week. The player list was already put on YouTube on the description earlier, so that should be working just fine. Just checking right now if everything is working as intended. Just a second. Okay, and obviously it took all the okay, the tool we're using took the players out of the list, so I just need a short copy pasting that won't take long. Bear with me, guys, and in the meantime, if you have any question, as I was saying, you can ask me what's going on there. Let me just again re-add the participants, and we'll be able to get going. Okay, let me recheck. Yes, we can put actually a few more. That means I will also have to edit slightly the list for the YouTube description, since obviously it will not be shuffled the exact same way. Do we have everyone here? Yes, we have. Let me reshuffle that a few times, and I will start the stream, and then we'll be start the fight night, sorry, and then we'll actually have the description updated. So yeah, sorry for that. That's basically the magic of the live, live magic. Is everything good? We should be good. Yes. Okay, so everything has started. Let me see if everything is working fine on my end. I will need to just have the screen recopied properly, because it froze, as it usually does when you're not touching it for way too long, and then we'll be able to start. Little surprise for you today. I've decided that maybe it makes sense for you to not have the game in French every time. Also, that's actually something that Crucible mentions to me, and it was completely right. I didn't think at all about the fact that this was indeed in French, so now you should be seeing everything in English. Also, you can see by the name that it's Celador by Matt Remar, because that's the army that we picked for today. And without further ado, we should be able to start. Let's see if everything is working as intended. But from what I can see here, it should be the case. Yes, we're good to go. And yeah, as the first fights are running, I will be able to just take a tiny bit of time to copy paste properly this updated list of players and make sure that we have it properly set up on YouTube. Okay, guys, I see as well that some of you have some questions already. I will answer to that in just a second. I'm doing my best to multitask. I'm not necessarily the best yet, but it's only my second stream, so I'm doing. I think it's okay enough to not be crucified by the next week. Okay, and now we should be able to edit properly everything and get things started. Also, as you can see, it should be already going quite faster than it was in the last stream, so that's potentially a good thing. And yeah, so that's pretty much done now with the list of players. It should be properly updated for you on YouTube if you are rechecking, updating your game pretty much. I'm also realizing you might not have the sound of the game at the moment, so I will just see what is causing that, or are you actually able to hear the sound? Can you guys tell me if you're hearing it? In the meantime, there are questions about getting some of the image files for units, etc. Yes, we can try to get you that. Usually that shouldn't be much of a problem, so I don't see any problems with getting you this. It's mostly a matter of trying to collect all of your requests in one document, which I can share with you, or in one thread on Discord, so that when I go to the art team or to the team that is importing the art assets in the game, I can tell them, hey guys, can you give me all of that, rather than going and annoy them every day with one request, because that, it's just going to be way more efficient if we ask them for a specific packs of files that we want to get. So no problem there. And yeah, Green Foods, the comment table is actually Matt Remar, but I guess you knew that, so yeah. It's not a real impersonation, don't worry. Actually, I must say, I discovered that there are some impersonator in our community, actually, because when I created or when I renamed the account that we're using, CavierDoomsoul, I checked and there were only 2 CavierDoors in the game, and they were fully inactive. And there seems now to be 5 of them. So that's definitely something slightly different there. And some people trying to impersonate myself. Oh, dare they. Okay, I see someone mentioning that there's no sound for the audio from the game, so let me check if I can get that to go. Just a second, so that I don't take the wrong one. That's probably because when I restarted, yeah, that should be this, if I'm correct. If I'm correct, we should be getting the sound. No, I don't see it being mixed in there. Why isn't it? Sorry guys, I keep forgetting that the riot shipments will still show up during the fight night. That's one of those things I need to worry and pay more attention to in order to avoid that. But yeah, we'll get there for sure. So let me see, is there anything else that might explain why this is not perfectly working as it should be? Let me check. No, it's actually on the proper device, so there's no real reasons why it's not giving you the sound for the iPad at the moment. That's, yeah, it's a bit odd. Let's check if I can see what's going on there. There's nothing I can do in here. Maybe in the crazy setups there. Oh, hearing the clickings. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. It's because, yeah, right now, since I'm going through the parameters, you might be hearing my mouse next to the microphone. Sorry about that. At the moment, I don't seem to find the reason why the in-game sound is not working. Just checking in the parameters, but no, nothing there. Yeah, so for now, it seems like we will basically be dealing with my voice only. I'll see if I can find another explanation as to what is causing this. It seems like I have this kind of issues whenever the iPad disconnects completely and reconnects. Sometimes it doesn't pick it up right away, which means, you know, if I see that things are going fast enough, we might actually just take 1 minute to get the iPad reconnected properly, and hopefully that will solve it. Yeah, I'm glad to see some defeats in there as well. It shows that the army is not too overpowered, like some people thought would be. Yeah, and of course, yeah, Crucible. I saw earlier that in the new list it was going to be the 125 fights, and yeah, I think it's not on purpose because, as you've seen, this was not the first list, but that's definitely a funny coincidence in there. And yeah, there's some good ideas on how to beat this army in the comment table Discord. Ah, that's clever. Means you guys are thinking about how you can get things going, so that's good. That being said, so far the army is not doing as good as I expected, so maybe you don't need to give people too much advices. How's my account? My account is progressing slowly for one simple reason, is that for now, I didn't have enough time yet to basically get a lot better at the slightly highest level now, which is pretty much where I now need to invest some time, meaning, you know, I reached rank 10, 11, 12, 13 rather quickly. And now it's basically where I need to get more elevated in my gameplay, understand a bit better what I'm doing, and invest a bit more time. I'm actually planning to spend a bit more time on that this very weekend and going through some of the guides that you guys put up, which they already helped me quite well with the rest. But no, I didn't reach the leagues yet. I know that you're pretty much on a race with me, but you're doing very good, so I will probably not be anywhere near that by the time you reach the leagues with this new account. I will probably be gone. You will have passed me for a while already. That's what I meant mostly. It will not do well against anyone that had a chance to look at it. Yeah, I mean that's the thing as well. Is that's one of the things that I said earlier when I said that I want the battles to be a challenge, but also to reward the engagement. And I feel like, you know, if some people came to the stream or they dug a bit deeper to look at the army and see what would work best, etc., I'm all fine for losing against this kind of players, because what it means is that those guys basically put the effort and they deserve to get the highest rewards they can get. Obviously, for you, Matrima, obviously it's a bit different because you have an interest in potentially seeing them not perform too good. But yeah, overall, that's still the most important part, is that it is entertaining, and you also respected very well the requirement of making sure we have an army that would be fast, either one way or the other. To me, that was the requirement I had for this week, and this is definitely interesting. For the next time, so in 2 weeks, the requirements will be a bit different, because this time around, we will need you guys to help us come up with not one, but 3 armies. At the moment, it is very likely that the one we'll pick for early players will remain the same for quite a while, because this is the group of players where there will be the more rotation, and it is less likely then people will get stuck in this part for a very long time. But also, most of the people in this round will probably be a lot of newcomers that did not have the time to look at previous streams to see what the army is. So I would not expect necessarily the beginner's army to change drastically every time, but the 2 others will try to keep them as challenging and as fresh as possible. Yeah, so a couple of comments there. Aniviper, I will take yours in first because that's a very interesting topic. Any potential ideas in regards to how clan wars might be implemented going forward, especially when some clans are comprised of multiple clans? Um, One thing I can say is that we cannot really make any mechanics that would allow for the sub clans or the family of clans to exclude each other, because the problem is if we put anything like this in place, what will happen in terms of matchmaking is that within just a few events you will have only a few families left that won't be able to fight any of their clans, and only the fight will turn into what are the big families, and all the clans that are not within families will be crushed. What is more likely to happen though is that clans in terms of matchmaking should be fighting clans that are of the same strength, and from what I see so far, most of the family of clans have a really vertical hierarchy where you really have a top clan, then you have one that is their academy or however they want to name it, and then it goes a bit below. So if they keep enough spacing in between their clans, if they structure it in a way that makes sense on that end, they really won't have much cases where they might fight each other. And then again, it's something that might benefit from them because they might feel like, hey, you know what? Actually, I could let the smaller team win this fight because it's going to be super good for them reward wise because they're fighting us and we're a way bigger team. So depending on how the rewarding system works, it might grant them a lot more points. So you might decide, hey, for this hour, since on our hand it wouldn't grant us too much points, we're not going to be fighting that much. We're going to leave our sub-clan, get the win, etc. There can be some good strategies going from there. But ultimately, what it comes down to will be what the format of the events will be. Because it's obviously a lot different if we are saying that you guys will fight against one clan for an entire week, or if every few hours you face a new clan, right? Within an event. That's definitely a difference. Regarding the fourth stone slot, it's gonna be implemented very, 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 very soon. Pretty much it should have been implemented already this week. The reason why it was not is because there was this login issues with the German and Dutch players. And of course, we didn't want to release such a feature when players would not be able to log in. Some of them. That just wouldn't be fair. But also, the thing is, until we deployed the fix, there was this possibility that we needed a hot fix rather than just a quick fix, which means that we would need to release a new version of the game. So we would not want to release a version with the Power Stone and then release another version right after with the fix and getting you guys to have to upload a new version 2 times in a row, etc. Since we've already had quite a few versions lately, it would have been a bit too much. That's why we delayed it. But as I'm talking to you right now, the plan is still to have it released within the next few days, probably before the next season, the next era starts. That's for sure. And yeah, probably still within this season. One question also that was asked and for which there was no answer yet regarding what will the fourth slot be. What I can tell you is that we made sure that there would not be 100% defensive scenario. So it seems very unlikely that you can add another defensive stone, because then there would be scenarios where you would have 100% immunity of some sort, and that's obviously not something we can work with. So so far as I can tell, that's one of the details I can share, that it should be focusing more on the offensive side or the other effects, but not the defensive power stones. Okay, so what is the question regarding Reddit? What's going on there? Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the Reddit. I don't see where this conversation even started. Oh, you mean, okay, got it. So it started from the best guide, best, I guess you wanted to say best guild, or was it for the best guide? If it's for the best guide and creating guides, actually I've done that in the past and I would be super fine with having something like this because it encourages players in creating guides for others. So I'm perfectly fine with having this kind of competition. That's also one thing with the new structure of the stream. It would give us more bandwidth rewards wise to also organize other contests again on the side, like art contests if some people are interested, some trivia and quizzes, but not necessarily strictly in the stream, but also on Discord and such, depending on how you're doing it. Now, if your question was actually about the guilds, a competition between guilds could also be interesting. Yeah, I'm seeing now that you are focusing on guides, but to be honest, on the guild side, like the families of clans, we could also organize something like this. It could be potentially be done on Reddit. I don't see a problem with that. But what matters to me is we do it where we have the more people. And if we have more people on Discord, then it makes sense to have it there. The flares for trap light need updating. I'm not sure to understand what you're referring to here. So there's a request to make sure that Murder of Crows does not have a movement slot. I will pass on the word. One thing to also mention, there will be adjustments needed for the 4th Power Stone. The reason why it's not been the one thing we spend time checking every single stone and every single unit case separately is simply because right now we're still pretty far from having a lot of players anywhere near getting those 4th stone. So we know that whenever there's something that players tells us, hey, I've just seen a player with this 4th slot being used with this combination and it's OP because of X or Y, we will have time to react, because it's not like, for example, when you add something that all the players can get, like a unit. When we have a balancing issue with a unit, if we don't react very quickly, you end up impacting absolutely everyone. With the Power Stone slot, we will react as fast as we can, obviously, but also the time for those to be potentially impactful is a bit longer. So that gives us more bandwidth to correct anything that was wrong. Okay. Yeah, Greenfoot, the subreddit is pretty dead. Yeah, I mean, we can give it some activity again. To me, my philosophy personally, and it's something I've been telling in every single community I've ever worked in, is that we should be where you guys want us to be. I'm always making this joke that if tomorrow all of you wanted us to be on Tinder or on a dating app or whatever, we would consider it. We would probably not go for it, but what I mean is, what we care about is where the community wants us to be. We will not invest our time and resources in launching ourselves in a platform if none of you are there. So we can try to revive the Reddit a bit. Mostly what I would like to know is how many players we have on Reddit that are not willing to make the switch and join us on Discord, or how many of the Discord users would still see a huge benefit in having a more active Reddit. That's the part that is more important for us. Okay, I'm trying to understand what is said there in German. From what I understand, you wrote your battle tag on Discord. I will check, probably I received a message about that. But again, for the streams, you really need to make sure you register to the form when it's shared, simply because it's a bit more complicated to add people once the stream is launched, but also because potentially it's a bit unfair because there's a point at which we stop the registration, and that means if someone contacts me afterwards, I'm also denying a lot of people that wanted to register but saw that it was over and didn't. So it's hard for me to know who I should prioritize in this case. And if we were to leave the registration form open, we would run into the same issue of who should I get in first? Should it be the 127 player on the list, or should it be someone that contacted me on Discord a bit before the end of the form, etc.? It can be a bit tricky. So that's why, as much as possible, I will always ask you guys to stick to the form because it's the most fair way to allow players to join in. Okay, there are some questions that I missed on regarding the journey levels. Actually, we are working on a ton of journey levels, but we're not going to be releasing all of them at once. Most likely, we will be looking at 1 or 2 zones when we will extend it first, but we have a lot more in the pipeline and a lot more that are already ready. Simply, we won't be releasing all of them at once because the problem with the journey levels, the way they are done right now, is that it's super cool, but for people that have been there playing forever, it will be super fast to finish all of them again. So there's no real benefit if we were to release all of them at once. So we will release them slowly, allow people to have the time to catch up, and then move from there. There's also some things we are looking at to potentially extend the concept of the journey levels. There are different ideas. I'm not going to be teasing you too much with that because it's a bit early and there are some stuff I cannot share yet. But what I can say is that we're looking at replayability a little. That's something that you guys were asking about. So we are looking at the replay value of journey levels. And we're looking at also updating the rewards for the journey levels so that they include a bigger variety of elements in there. So we're looking at this. We are looking as well at the possibility to have other elements from the game also working in the journey levels, or there's a few of them that we might rebalance because we see that there are some plateaux where players are stuck for a while and then they just completely forget and they don't come back to the journey levels. So some of them might need to be reworked a little. I see someone mentioning that we should have like one every 2-3 months. It seems pretty feasible. I'm not sure if it's going to be every 2 to 3 months. Maybe, it will be every 2 eras. So that right now that would be 4 months or something like this. But that's not far from what we are considering. There was a question earlier that I missed. Wait, so the 4th slot hasn't been tested yet, as asking Aniviper. It depends what you're considering is as tested. The feature is working as intended. It's adding the effects that it should. It is not bugging. It is not crashing. It is not causing any issues with the rest of the game. Those elements have been properly tested. We also tested that there's no conflicts between the different power stones etc. What has not been, what I mentioned has not been tested is the extensive balancing details of every single one of them. What I mean by this is that it is possible that there are a few combinations you will find to be a bit overpowered, or some that you will find by usage to be a little bit underpowered. And that's the kind of situations where, same as for new units, same as for new power stones, etc., we'll need to react. That's what I meant. It is tested, obviously, on the technical side. It's just simply not a case where I can tell you that every single possible combination has been balanced for months in the most perfect way, and we know that everything will be perfect from the get-go, because that would just not be honest as an answer, and it's also not really realistic to balance out every single combination possible in one go. Actually, even from what I know from previous discussions with Traplight, they also had to do some rebalancing here and there when they were releasing their slots, so that doesn't seem like a big difference to what you guys knew before. There's a question to have the journey levels more thematically consistent. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit tricky, because with the journey levels, the problem is we have to make sure that they work as a single player progression as well. So sometimes it's a bit harder to make them consistent in terms of theme, and at the same time make them consistent in terms of the challenge and the fight you're actually going to meet. But if you have some specific levels for which you remember, or if a new account is created and you see some levels that are really inconsistent, or something where you feel like, oh yeah, this one really felt off, then you can let us know which one it is, and we can see if there's anything we can do there. I see you're mentioning the Druidic Forest, and there's a fight in the Arctic. That's the kind of thing I can share with the team, and we can look into. What I can tell you is that for now, obviously, with the journey levels, our focus is to get the new ones released and get a lot of future ones already ready in the pipeline. This is already quite advanced in the work, so once this is done, we can definitely go back and get things corrected if there are some levels for which we could make a difference. I would say, though, that it will probably not have the highest priority for now. If we end up having something that adds replay value to the levels, as I was saying before, because that's one of the things we look at, once we have some replay value, then it will have a higher priority, because we know that people will play the level several times, etc. At the moment, it's a bit, it's not going to be having the same priority as some other elements, of course. Greenfoot, yeah, you're mentioning pretty much that, of course, yeah, you cannot access the messages in Discord if you don't have a Discord account, and indeed that's an entry barrier for some players, indeed. I mean, on that account alone, I would say that looking at the subreddit could make sense. One thing that would make sense to look at is as well whether it's better to look at if it's better to look at the Reddit, or if it's better to look at what might have been created on the wiki side. I know that there were some wikis, fan-made wikis floating around here and there. We have to see what would be the most beneficial for players, what they would use the more. But again, I don't have anything against being more active on the subreddit. I would just say the question for me is to make sure that everyone is more active on the subreddit. So we can try to revive it a bit more, but then it will also be on you guys to support us in this effort and show that this platform is making sense for you. Yeah, I mean, so for the exposure that brings the subreddit, I agree with you. Obviously, a subreddit is gonna be um, a plus for the exposure. That being said, I would say it was more true a few years back. At this point, Reddit is so crowded with communities, but also Discord has taken such a strong place in the mobile gaming communities as well that it's a tiny bit different there. But yeah, on Reddit, there's definitely stuff we can do better there. Okay, actually, you cannot see that right now, but I have one of my dogs that decided to come and say hi. I don't know if he wants to show himself. No? Okay, so he just wants to be pet. So yeah, that was the small dog interruption of the stream. Some of you might have heard weird clicking noises. That was basically him on the wooden floor because we need to shorten his claws again. His claws are growing super fast. So yeah, sorry, that was a small digression from my personal life. But yeah, what do you want when you're a dog person? You have to mention those kind of things. Sorry about that. Greenfoot, your understanding of the timeline is fourth Porsten slot, adds, journey levels, artifact balance, clans war. Have you missed anything or get anything massively out of order? For the order that you have, it's pretty much correct, except that so the fourth Porsten slot, the ads, the journey, it's something that will come very fast. And there's a lot of other stuffs we have in the pipeline in parallel to the artifact balance and the clan wars. The artifact balance might come a bit earlier than the clan wars, obviously, but even, I mean, it might come closer from the journey release. At the moment, it's a bit hard to say still, but in any case, there will be quite a lot of other stuff that we have prepared. In what you can add in there, there's the personal events. So the events functioning in the similar manner as the bounty hunter and those kind of things. We have a lot of those. A lot of those. We have at least 4 concepts for those events that we want to work on. I'm not sure if all of them will make it and if they will all make it in one go or if it will be like, oh, we release one and then another one will come 3 months or 4 months later. It's hard to tell at the moment, but those are in this pipeline as well. And for the ads as well, it is most likely going to happen in phases, right? It is very likely that there will be a first phase with some changes to ads, some addition, and then another phase will add some more if we see that it's performing well, etc. So the ads part might, just like the journey, it's something you might see pretty much as a regular thing that we expand on, that we expand on in there. Other things that I can tell you we're looking at is improving the season passes, because that's the bread and butter of this game, to be honest, and we're looking at trying to make it better. There are a lot of things we're looking at already. So yeah. Do I have a favorite artifact or least favorite? At the moment, not so much, because that's my biggest problem on the gaming side for now, is that with artifacts, I didn't dig enough in the interactions between the artifacts that I pick, the structure of my army, and the power stones that I use for each one of them. That's where I need to really dig a lot deeper and find the build that makes sense for me with the artifacts that I have and the ones I want to develop, etc. That's because I'm at this point where I have artifacts, most of them level 0 pretty much. So it's kind of like I can go in any direction, but I need to try them out. The problem is, to really make sense of it, I also need to understand their impact on the build that I'm using. So that's this part that I'm not fully sure about yet, and that I need to further develop. Can we suggest Clan Wars concept, or it's closed and in making? Is asking users. I don't know how you pronounce it. I will pronounce it in a French way. So for now, unless you tell me otherwise, it will be users for me. You can suggest Clan Wars concepts. As I was saying already last week, we have a few different concepts. The main idea is pretty much what you can expect from every Clan Wars. So what I can suspect is that you will be facing clans, you will be, like, each of your players will be facing other players from the other clans, and you will score points for your team, and this will lead to a leaderboard of all the teams. That's kind of the core that will be there no matter what. Now, what is still in debate at the moment, it's how we structure that. Is it going to be an event where you're facing several clans every couple of hours until the end of the event? Is it going to be an event where you face only one event for an entire week? Or for all of that, we're pretty open. So if you have a concept, as long as it's still within this idea of a clan will fight another one, and you have a ranking of all the clans at the end of the event, as long as it's within this basic ground set of rules, you can, of course, share with us some of your concepts, and we'll be happy to look into it. Yeah, so yeah, making the army is artifacts first, then units and persons. That's what I understood so far. So that part, I got it. Now I need to really go for it. And I know that you would answer to all the questions and problems that I have, and that anyone has. I've been actually reading quite carefully already all your feedback from the restart of the game that you're going through. Overall, the thing on my side is I always try to play like a new player would. So I try not to ask you guys, hey, fit me with guides and strategies and stuff, because I know that this is not what most of the new guys would do right away. So I'm trying to get the information I get on doing my own research on what has been already shared on Discord or elsewhere, and then I will be asking more and more questions, but I try to really get the same experience as any random player would have. Because the one thing is, honestly, if I'm starting to ask questions on Discord on a specific build, I know that I might have faster answer or different answers than what a random player would get. Not necessarily better ones, because sometimes people might want to troll me a bit more, but I know that it's going to be a tiny bit different. So I'm trying to first get to that point, and then go from there. Any thoughts into further army slots? As far as I'm aware, that has not been planned yet. The main concern with this kind of suggestions, because I've seen as well some people asking, hey, can we actually have more points for our army and place more units or this kind of things, it's that at one point we will have technical limitations of how far we can go without making the app too heavy. Because once we make this app too heavy, it's gonna be super tough to recover from that. If the ad gets too heavy, one of the issues we will face is that we will have less downloads, because some people will not be able to install the game as they should, and that part would be very, very dangerous for us. So that's one thing we really have to be super cautious about overall. So that's what I can say on that part. But by definition, we don't have any. We don't have anything against this idea. I know that some people wanted another slot because it allows you as well to. I mean, it works well with the different modes that you have as well, etc. And having the possibility of experimenting with more builds is definitely something we want to encourage. We just have to see how that would work on the technical side to not break the limitations that we have. That being said, to be clear, that's my educated guess of an answer from what I've seen in the past with this kind of requests in every single game I worked with. Maybe it's completely irrelevant for Battle Legion and the tech guys will tell me that no, it wouldn't change much to add one and that can be done faster. It's just that by experience, that's the kind of feedback I can already expect from the technical side of things. I'm also surprised that there's been no comments. It's the first time that something like this happens to me, that there's a dog passing by on my stream and no one is even asking me what is the breed of my dog, what's the name of the dog, and asking me 100 questions about the dog. So that's quite unusual, guys. I'm starting to feel like you all are cat persons, which, I mean, I don't have problems with cat people. I'm just trying to know what kind of community I'm facing, If I'm the only dog person in there, I need to be aware as well, because that might need some readjustments on my end, Oh, you have a dog and a bird. Noises from animals probably don't faze most people. That's, of course, that's not a, that's completely natural. Actually, I don't think I ever had a bird as a pet. My grandparents did at one point, but yeah. You thought this was a falcon community. That would have been nice. That would have been fun. That would have been surprising. A bit hard to get used to. I'm not sure I would have been able to join you in the Falcon ownership club right away. It would probably take a bit of time and a lot of changes in my personal life, but that would have been quite interesting. Kim, cats for life, sure. No, as I said, I don't have any problem with that. Overall, I always find it funny the fact that people split it this way, because personally I love all pets. The only reasons why we have dogs and not cats at home is because I'm allergic to cats' saliva, which, as you know, is getting on their hair, which gets a bit everywhere and gets me a bit allergic. And yeah, because of that, it's just simpler to have dogs on our hands. But it's not like I don't like cats, and anytime I'm seeing a cat, I'm super glad to pet them and I mean, if they allow me to, because that's also the characteristic of cats, right? But to be fair, sorry, one of my dogs is pretty much a cat in terms of personality, so that would be the same. And yeah, Greenfoot, you're saying that you're not a pet person. That's perfectly fine as well, no problem with that. I'm seeing that the game has frozen on the stream. I don't know if that's the case for you guys as well, but just in case, I'm gonna restart right away the sharing and see if that works, because that should be the case. Yeah, game frozen. Thank you, Matt Remar. Yeah, I'm already on it. Shouldn't be too long. It does happen. Yeah, I mean, if it's every hour, it's not so bad, but still, at least I would like for it to work fast. That's mostly what I want, is for this to be sorted fast. Let me check where we are there. Come on. Oh, okay, it was there. Yes, it's there. Okay. So, okay, it should be working now. Perfect. Yeah, it should be working. Okay, all good. So that's G1234 that we're fighting on right now. I paused the game before that, so you shouldn't have missed any fight as far as I can tell. But yeah, if there's been any fight that was missed on, please let me know. I mean, I will recheck from the list as well, but if there's a fight that was lost along the way, we would make sure that these players would get a priority for the next stream as well, so that they can enjoy their fights properly. But yeah, I don't think it was the case, so we'll see. Okay, guys, do you have any other questions that you would like to ask regarding where the game is heading, what you want to see in the game, any of the topics we might have not covered yet today? We are fully ready for that. So yeah, just let us know if there's anything that you can think of. Comment about the stream difficulty. When I joined the game, I knew I couldn't win on fight night, so I didn't join them right away. But I liked the incentive to build my army out. Yeah, I fully agree, and that's why we still need things to run so that people still have an incentive to build their army out and go to the next challenge. That's why I was saying, even with these three tiers that we're gonna be doing, the idea is that winning the easy army will grant you, like, I don't know the final number, so I don't want to give you final numbers yet, but if, let's say, the win against the very easiest army would get you 150 gems, we want to make sure that a loss against the regular would give you 200 or something like this, just so that there's always a gap that makes it so that it's valuable for you to say, okay, I'm gonna build my army to be able to take on the new challenge, because I know I will be able to also get a better reward, and even if I fail, I will still get more than sticking to my comfort zone, because that's one of the things I wanted to fight with the tier system. Is if we put a tier system, I don't want people to stay in their comfort zone and not try to go higher because they kind of play it safe. If the rewards are progressing, there's no downside in trying the higher tier for you. Why wouldn't I always go for the highest army then? That's a good question. The main thing is that's a good point actually. The thing is, for beginners to regular, it's pretty logical that most beginners will want to go for the beginner army. That's true that between regular and hardcore, that might push a lot of people to go directly to the hardcore fight. Yeah, I will have to see what could be a good solution for that. Mostly, what I could see in there is potentially making it so that you have a higher incentive by participating, but if you constantly are losing terribly in one category, we might on our side put you in the other category or something like this, but that would be potentially quite tricky to look into. So yeah, we will look into that. I mean, one thing to consider as well is that we do not necessarily have to have 3 tiers. It could also be 2 tiers. There's a lot of things that we can do. Having the win-loss the same for each tier, but having the tier depend on your rank. The only problem I see with this is that starting rank 16, pretty much everyone is at rank 16, and a lot of people that are at rank 16 wouldn't necessarily be going for the hardcore one and would rather want to go for the regular one and being able to get that. Oh, you mean that? Oh, that's a good idea actually. So have your rewards depending on your rank league. So basically, if you're not up for the challenge yet, but you go for it, you would not get better reward. That's possible. That's possible on paper. The main problem with this is that it is not possible on the technical side without more development. Long story short, the way it works at the moment is that the system is granting for each fight night the same rewards. So if I set a fight night, I set the rewards that are given for the win, the draw, the loss. If we need to make it individual, that would mean we need to individually calculate and give every single reward, and that would mean we would not be able to do it right after the next day or the day after or the day after. It might be pushing a lot and adding a lot of manual work after that. But we need to think about this. That's a good point that you bring up, indeed. That's actually a good idea as well, to say that as a streamer, I act as a red boss, and you guys need to have a certain amount of wins to get the reward. That could work for the. That could work in order to not push too many people to go to the wrong league, I guess. What I would foresee if we do this is indeed then to do it only for the hardcore part. For the beginners, we keep it as beginners. We don't want to make it too hard, especially because the number of people that will go for the beginners will probably be rather small. Then then we can go from there. We could have the regular tier being a normal one, and the hardcore tier would be the one where it's kind of the hardcore boss. Oh, wait a second, the sound came back for like half a second and was gone again. Okay, that's weird. The problem I see if we do this, and if we go with this hardcore boss, or the red boss system, pretty much, is that I would not do it for all the tiers, because for the top tiers it makes sense. People will go for it if they have the strength, because they need to make sure there's a certain number of wins to get the reward. But we also have to think about the potentiality that the community gets screwed over, potentially, by the people that want to be what we call the clandestine passenger in this kind of situation. So people that know they cannot win, but feel like, oh, you know what, that's fine, I will be within the 10% that won't win and still get the reward. But if too many people believe like this, then it's the entire community that would lose for these few people. Then that might create some super complicated tensions. That's one thing I would foresee. What about losses? Granting 50 gems, then wins are higher. So if you lose, you get the same amount on all tiers, only win amount changes. That's a possibility. That's a simple possibility indeed. The one thing is, if we do this, that would also mean that the players might not really have an incentive to go for the higher tier, though. Like if you're a beginner, you might not necessarily want to tackle the next tier, because like if you lose once in that higher tier, you will go back to the lower tier for the longest time until you're very sure. But that indeed might be the safest approach to start with and see how it goes indeed. Higher tiers of armies could knock off more lives. I'm not fully sure to understand what you mean there, Greenfoot. Because yeah, I'm not sure to understand what it means. Another way to potentially look at it, but I feel like it would be a bit mean, is to say that if you lose, you are sent to training, and that means you have to pass on one stream. As you know, the next stream will be your training period, and you can come back the moment the one after. That would kind of allow the rotation of players, and also mean that you don't have an interest in losing in the higher tier. You have an interest in going for the tier that's the best for you. The only reason why I would not necessarily favor this approach is because, yeah, it might be, a bit mean for a lot of players that might lose but put a very strong effort and would deserve to be there back after a stream or such. Okay, now I get it, what you meant regarding the red boss ID. I mean, yeah, I get the idea, but since it won't be pretty much a red boss per se, because we don't have the mechanic for that, that would mean it would still be a proper army. And if it's a proper army, there won't be the mechanism of lives, etc., which means I would need to think about that. I would need to do that on manual side, and it would probably quickly be a nightmare to calculate. And yeah, the training camp would be too punishing. I agree. I agree that it's not necessarily fair to players. So far, out of the discussions we mentioned, I think that your initial thought of saying let's keep the losses pretty close from one another the same is the best. What I would probably do still is that a loss in the middle or the hardcore boss would be worth more than a loss in the beginner mode, but they would still be worth less than a win in those categories. So if we take back the fictional number of saying 50 for a loss in the beginner, then we could make it like 75 for a loss in regular and 100 for a loss in the hardcore mode. But then a win would be 200 for the beginners and 400 for the regular and 600 or something like this for the hardcore one. This way, there's still a progression and you still earn more if you're losing in a more complex scenario, so that people that lose not because they picked the category that would bring the most gems, but because they put an effort, still get a tiny bit more. And on the other end, there's less incentives there. You like the sound of those numbers? I cannot guarantee those numbers, but that's pretty much what we would be looking at most likely. Since, again, there would be less streams, so there would be less occasions for people to fight. So the rewards will reflect that, obviously, and be a bit bumped, especially at the top. So that just makes sense. Yeah, I understand what you mean. I understand what you mean, and we can work with that. I will come up with the numbers and see what would work best. But that's the way we are looking at the moment. Okay, and actually, see, it's going faster than last time, but it's still, yeah, we're still we're still in a rather slow pace overall. I mean, no, it's okay. It's normal. I think we started pretty much an hour ago for the fight night in itself, a bit more than an hour ago, and we have already 185 players. So it's okay. It's okay. We won't make it to the 2 hours, but it's mostly my fault because I spoke too much at the beginning. So, at least we will be pretty far from the 3 hours and 37 minutes of the last stream. So that would be a bit better. Okay, so the last time I remember that some people asked me what the music that I play sounded like and those kind of things. In case you're wondering, today I'm wearing a t-shirt from the band Mentar. It's rather heavy music, and they come from the north of Germany. I love this band. If you want to give it a listen, you will have a pretty good idea of the styles of music that I like and that I play, because it's a bit in that direction, even though I don't claim to have half of the talent of those guys, but that's a different story. Okay, one thing I need to mention, because I was thinking about that the other day, is that for newcomers, sometimes it's super hard to analyze fights, because with all the skins, sometimes it's hard to understand which unit is actually facing you, and you need to basically go to the menu, go see the different skins, and if you don't have those skins, sometimes it's not as clear, etc. yet. So just a small thing that I was thinking about, that sometimes I'm struggling to understand what a unit is because I didn't see yet that very skin in action or stuff like this. And I was just wondering if any of you went through that phase as well, or if it's basically just me. Oh, that's what I call the tower defense kind of build. Yeah. It's like so many mine shrooms. So many. So many. Also, so far I didn't play too much with the skins when I built this kind of armies. Probably that next time I will try to make a goofy looking army, like something where the skins don't match up and make no sense at all, just for the lords. I mean, probably no one will laugh at this except me, but that's okay. Are there plans to look at the navigability of the menus, as it can often be hard to find what you want? I would say for the global picture, no, there's no current plan for that. Now, if there's specific needs in terms of UI, so the user interface, for anyone that is not familiar with those terms, so UI, UX, user interface, and user experience, we can look at that. Mostly, we don't plan on making radical changes there, so it would only be based on the feedback we get, based on the data we can collect, even if it's always hard to collect too much data there. And we also would like to look at, we would probably be looking at how much effort it is to alter it, because there are some UI UX elements that we can change rather easily, and some of them would be an insane amount of work. And since this is an item that will not reflect directly, to really be talking clearly about the game, the gaming industry, and the gaming economy, because again, I like to be transparent. If the UI element we're trying to fix is super complicated to change, it's unlikely to happen, simply because we will always have something that has a higher priority for our development team to look at. If we have the choice between bringing a new feature into the game or slightly altering a menu, as you can imagine, the feature will bring us more activity from the players, more revenues, more what we call the retention, so players sticking with us and playing the game longer. Those elements are pretty much what allow us to make a living with this game. So we will always have to give those elements the priority. So UI UX changes, we can make some, but mostly if it's very targeted and depending on how much effort it is. Some of those changes are super easy and it's only about changing an image and a few elements in the code, and it can be done very quickly. Some of them are a lot more tricky, so I cannot really say in advance what would be possible or not. The unit list, when you don't have a lot of units or can't unlock them, yeah. I mean, I will be honest on the topics of devs. It's not to trash any devs in here. If some of my colleagues are discreetly watching me, I love you guys. You're the best, and I love all the devs across the world. But to me, it's the same for devs, but it's the same for any other part of the game, that we have a tendency to be a lot more critical with the products we have no connection to. So for example, if you ask me on the community management side what I think about community management on game X or Y, I will be a lot more critical than I would about my own game. Not my own work. I can be pretty critical of what I do myself, but at least for the community, yeah, I see that it's permanently spinning. What the hell is going on there? Come on. Okay. I hope I won't have to fully restart the game because that won't not be too good. Come on. Okay, so I need to just stop that for a second, guys, and see what is going on. Sorry about that, it's technical difficulties that might happen from time to time. This one I didn't see it so far, so that's a brand new one. Bye, PyroBebop. We'll see you next time. Yeah, I never had the perma spin before. It's a brand new thing for me. Let me just see if it's restarting correctly. That's mostly the bits that I'm worried about, is that we don't see any problem with the players list, etc. So I'm gonna cross-check that with the actual list and we'll be able to go. Just a second. Should be around here. Okay. Let me reshare the screen and we'll be able to restart. Hopefully everything should be good. I believe that some of the fights might actually happen a second time, but we'll see what will happen there. Oh, we got the sound. Okay. But we still have this perma spin. I have no idea where this comes from. Let me just check that the connection and everything is good, but I don't see why it wouldn't. Okay. Okay, in the meantime, there are a lot of bugs listed on Discord and likely reported through support. Would it be possible to mention when those should have been fixed? Yeah, I mean, the main problem there is that I need to get a full list ready on my end, which I can get to you guys rather quickly and get an update on them, because some of them, as you said, have been there for a long time, others might not, so we need to check what's going on in there. But I still have this perma-spin. I don't know what I can do for that there. Let me just check for a second. Okay. I'm sorry guys, I'm basically fully restarting the game then, because there's pretty much no real other option I have right now. Also, I'm gonna check. How is everything going so far? So that is fine. Yeah, I'm sorry guys, I don't have too much stories I could tell in the meantime, because I pretty much already did that. So I didn't expect more issues to come up. Let me see. I should remove the problematic account from the list. That should be the problem. Okay. Actually, I will trust you on that, because I'm restarting and it won't start. So that's probably the case. Now let me find out who that was, because that's the main problem. Since in the perma-spin, I cannot see actually what was the name. I should tell dad jokes until you get it functional again. Yeah, I will rather tell you from a game from my childhood that I'd like to see a remake on the next gen system, because that's super easy to me. I just want an actual proper remake of Zelda's Majora's Mask. For me, it's pretty much like the we used to have the what was it called already? We had the Link to the Past remake, and I would actually like to have a proper remake of Majora's Mask. That would be awesome, because that's the first Zelda that I ever did properly, at least, and didn't just play with on some of my friends' TV or whatever. Okay, so I'm still trying to find out exactly which one was the faulty account. Did any of you guys manage to see what was the last account that worked well? Because on your end, you might be able to see that better than I did. Yes, Majora's Mask is the one with the Angry Moon, and indeed they will not do it until the Ocarina remake, but they did a new version of Ocarina. So Elatanar should be the wrong account. Let me check if that would fit in terms of where it was placed in the Fight Night. That's a bit weird, because I don't even see it there. At least nowhere near that. Yeah, they did the Majora's Mask on the 3DS, but they didn't relaunch it for the Switch, for example, which they actually did, I think, last year or 2 years ago for Ocarina, even if it's pretty much the 3DS version. But yeah, I would like to see that still. Why can't I find this account? That's super weird. Yeah, I don't find at all the Elatanar account in the list, so that might be the problem here. Oh, okay, number 94 in there. Is it in there? Okay. Now the question is, how can I actually delete a player from there? That's something I never had to do before. So I guess a simple option would be to... Okay, I know what I'm gonna do, guys. We end it there, so I will take just a second. We will actually do this. Yes, that should work. Now I can edit it. Okay, I found my way through. I find my way through. We are good there. Okay, now I'm gonna restart and we will have all of our fingers crossed. Please, please let this thing work. Yeah, there's been no boink, so yeah, congrats on that. Okay, now is pretty much the moment of truth. Let me put this back on for you guys so that, you know, if it's a success, you will witness it directly, and if it's a failure, I want you to be able to witness that directly as well, right? You deserve the right to see this. Just a second. Come on. Okay. Put back the auto spin. At least we got the music back, at least on my end. I don't know if you hear it, but... Okay, let's see. Doesn't seem to be good. Oh, but I know why. Okay, that's good. I know why. This is a random fight because I need to reset or properly set this. Yes. Okay, now we should be good. Let me see. And yes, we are back on track. We did it. We did it, folks. I didn't think that would be possible. And I'm super glad it works. Okay, now I can try to look at what's causing you guys not to be able to see, to hear the sound, because now I'm hearing it. Can you hear the sound of the app? You should be able to hear it. Maybe it's super low and I can make it a bit louder, but you should be able to hear it now. Woo! Those were a few stressful 5 minutes, but we did it. We found the solution. I would like to thank all of you for this. Olksver, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your nickname that well. But yeah, thank you for sharing that that solution. Good to know that this problem existed. Very, very good to get the solution from you. That's the community spirit. That's what we want to see in here. So yeah, thank you a lot for that. Thank you to all of you that helped me finding out this player. And I want to add, obviously, that Elatana will get some gems coming their way. Obviously, I will do that manually from tomorrow on, because that's not their fault if there was this problem. Greenfoot, you say that you can hear the music. I finally can hear it as well. A simple question: should we make it louder or less loud or whatever? On my end, it's pretty much up to you guys and what you think is best. Right now, for me, it's okay, but then again, it's up for you. Okay, you tell me it's fine. Perfect. I see as well that we have, I believe, some Russian being spoken in there. I hope that it's Russian. Otherwise, I'm sorry if I misidentified the alphabet being used, but that seems to me like it. I sometimes have troubles between some of the Eastern European languages and Russian to distinguish some of the alphabets. So if I got it wrong, super sorry about it. Yeah. Okay. you cannot. I cannot stress enough how relieved I am right now that everything is working fine again. It's all just Cyrillic. Yeah, I mean it's the Cyrillic alphabet, but there are some differences because there are some Cyrillic letters that are used in every single specific languages that are not in some others. At least for some of them, as far as I'm aware. Oh, that was fast. And so yeah, that's mostly what I meant there. Oh, that's a good looking army. This one from Vilius LT, that will be easier. This one, I was saying last week that some of these armies fight look a bit to me like Lord of the Rings type of wars and battles, and this one with all the spectrums and specters and ghosts design really looks like the ghost army. So yeah, pretty nice. Oh, that's a fast fight. And you know, and this is the opposite. This is like pretty much character against character rather than groups of units. That's pretty particular. Oh, thank you. The game is super. You want to thank the skin artist. I mean, yeah, we will thank the artist. We have still obviously some contacts with some of the people from Traplight because so far, for what you're seeing there, it's mostly their responsibility. But obviously, once it will get like in a few months' time, we will be the one that will be responsible for more and more stuff that you will see in the game. But for now, this thank you. I know it comes to that team, and we'll definitely share the words with them. Now I'm not sure if you're actually making fun of me by saying that you tried a cheese bleed build, because when you say cheese build, I feel like you're just saying that because I'm French and you want to, you know, to sing to my ears. But no, is that really a thing? A cheese bleed build? It seems too good to be true. If that exists, I'm gonna be playing that style only. Cheese bleed will be my thing, you know. For my kingdom, I have no choice. Okay, we're slowly getting closer and closer. So yeah, glad that we got everything back on track. We have about 20 players to go, even a bit less than that. So yeah, as I said earlier, we'll be past a bit the 2 hours, but to be honest, with the technical issues that we had to face, but also the fact that I spoke a bit longer at the beginning, it's pretty good. We were good on timing today. Ah, you just meant atypically. Yeah, but you see, that's one of the slang that I don't get, because for me, cheese is typical. You know, cheese is life. You know, pretty much for us French people. I mean, not all French people. Some people don't like cheese that much. Obviously, that's a stereotype. But in my case, at least the stereotype is true. So, you know. Okay, get it now. I didn't know this one. You see, you learn new stuffs every day. That's the point. I must admit, I always enjoy when there's fights where we have the same background. It's stupid, but I just feel like it's visually super appealing as well. And in a way, it probably does, simply because you usually don't get it, right? So if we were all to play on the same background, first of all, that would destroy the whole spinning mechanic that I kind of like a lot, but also it would look bland. It's only because it doesn't happen too often that I like when it happens, because suddenly my brain is at ease for a few seconds. Not quite a glitch, but not a build you typically use. Yeah, okay, I get the idea. I would say anyway that this is the kind of style I should follow, because there's cheese in it, you know. So maybe I will be able to convince the art team to work on a cheese unit. So a stinky cheese unit, you know. Maybe there's a concept to work on there. A melting cheese that is so rotten that it comes to life, you know, that would probably fit. No, it wouldn't, and believe me, I'm not gonna be asking that. Cheese skins for your favorite units. I mean, that would be extremely stupid, but that can be extremely fun as well. The Plague Throwers, a cheese launching skin. Could work indeed. It could very work indeed. We are getting pretty close to the end, my friends. We have pretty much 10 accounts to go. Precisely 10 accounts to go, actually. So the winning rate went up quite a lot in the last battles, but overall I feel like the choice of army today was good at fulfilling its missions, so being fast, and also the problem with sorry, I completely lost my train of thought there. that I was expecting this to happen way earlier than that. I must say, I saw on the chat that someone mentioned Parmesan, so Parmigiano, and my brain decided it could not function as it should anymore. So yeah, I was saying that the army that we had today was fulfilling its mission, being fast, and that's the main thing I wanted to get going today, but also being a challenge that is not too tough, but not too easy either. And yeah, I mean, it started by being very low in the winning rate. Now it's getting a lot higher, so overall it was quite balanced, I would say. The Earth Elemental Parmesan Tinted Skin. Guys, you know, in France, as I was saying the other day, we like to have dinner either pretty much at any time of the evening, but with all the food we're talking about now, I will probably have dinner rather quickly after the stream right now, because you're the community had 45 minutes to prepare, yes, yeah. I mean, technically it won't be always the case, because it is very likely that I will have to juggle between accounts for the coming streams, because we need fresh accounts regularly, since we don't have an easy way to downgrade units. So it is quite likely that if we start getting proposals of armies where I need to have a certain number of units below the level that I already have them at on this account, I will have to create another account once I reach the limit of the number of units that I can recruit, obviously. So yeah. Another year to prepare to win last time. Yeah, I mean, the last was pretty violent indeed. Yes, Crucible, you're back for the end. You missed on my terrible technical issues to sort, but you also missed on the super brave and helpful community that helped us to get things going. So yeah, it was a good moment. What's the next era? I cannot tell you that yet. I will need to recheck what was the final decision there, but pretty much you should be back on the cycle that you're aware of, because the next era is not a brand new one. So. Oh yeah, I missed that question earlier, Greenfoot indeed, asking about the journey level area icons, if they were going to be added as clan icons. Probably. I mean, I don't see any reasons not to do it. Just I need to check if it's already planned or if it might happen slightly after. But yeah. I take your word on that, Seth the Conjurer. I don't know if it's the Fury of the Elements era for the next one. I need to recheck. But yeah. Visitors from outer space, that would be fun. Yeah. I mean, personally, I would like that. That's probably where I would put my walking orcas killing whales units that I was talking about the other day, but in general, there are plans to add more eras. I don't know when that will happen though. That will most likely happen on a slightly longer run, but yeah, we'll look into that indeed. Okay, and I think we actually finished, if I looked at correctly, because Ron is not on our list, so I think we should be done now. Indeed, we are done now, so we will basically be stopping right after this battle. There could also be beings from the depth. Yeah, that could be quite interesting. Definitely, guys. Why? I don't. Sometimes I unlock the auto spin, and for whatever reason, it still auto spins, and I don't know why. And that is something I dislike. Of course, some could say that it's because with my big fingers I just mistyped, but I prefer to pretend that it's definitely the system that failed, because you should never blame the user, right? Anyway, that's pretty much it. We've done it, and look at the time. We managed to keep it pretty close to the 2 hours mark that we were looking at initially. And if we didn't have those technical issues, and if I spoke a little less at the beginning, we would be perfectly in time. So yeah, that's pretty good for today. Again, a lot of thanks to give, first of all, to all of you that stayed in the chat today. We had quite a lot of people talking, so that's always very nice and very entertaining as well. Thank you for that. Obviously, I want to thank Matt Remar for preparing this army for us today, and all of the participants for today. We presented you guys what we want to do with the next streams. So the next one will be in 2 weeks. The next one will be on the 12th of July, if I remember correctly. I'm checking, but that should be the case. And for the next one, there will be a few more elements that we'll share with you. We should also be able to share with you the registration form a bit earlier, most likely the day before, and have everything prepared. We will have battle news then, because it always depends on what we include in the battle news. From my perspective, I prefer to be able to share with you big news about the game. But yeah, we'll see how we can get this going. Battle news is usually in week 2. Yeah, we'll see if we can get that rolling. Then potentially maybe we'll have 2 streams in a row to catch back on that program. If that's what you guys prefer, that's perfectly fine. The only thing I know is that there will probably not be one next week because we need to set up everything. But as I said, we can have like the 12 and the week after that to get things set on the streaming frequency that you guys would prefer. That's not a problem at all. Okay, for now, again, I would like to thank all of you. Thank all of my little helpers that helped me find this issue and get things sorted. Thank you very much, and we'll talk very soon in the next stream. Bye guys, have a nice evening.